All right, welcome. Looks like we have some people on here ready to talk about meat, and I'm just going to give it 1 minute. It's a little bit before 2. Welcome. Hey there, I am Sari Kimball. I'm the creator of Food Business Success, and this is part of the Unwrapped series where I'm taking your questions about a packaged food product, and I'm giving you bite-sized answers right here on YouTube Live. And then, of course, you can always come back and find these answers right here on the Food Business Success YouTube channel. So we are talking meat today. So I've actually been working on this project with Sweetwood, and they do jerkies, and they have these meat sticks. Now, you maybe feel like, oh yeah, meat, this kind of meat would fall into sort of its own category. But I get a lot of questions about meat in general. So I thought this is a great topic to talk about. Because it's not just the raw, the jerky and the meat sticks and, the meat products that are the base, the main part of the meal, but it's anything that has meat in it. So I get a lot of questions. I get this, people coming to me saying, I want to make tamales, or I had paella, empanadas, like green chilies, any of these kind of, especially like around a lot of ethnic foods, which are delicious. So a lot of people want to, or even like baked goods with, ham in them or prosciutto or something like that. So the reality is I generally recommend that people steer clear of meat products, adding meat to their product at the beginning. It just adds a whole other layer of complication. And I'm going to explain the complication right now. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to like this video. Please subscribe to the to the Food Business Success YouTube channel, and also make a comment below. It really helps me grow this channel, and we have a big goal for getting our subscribers up in 2021. So I wanted to be sure I threw that in there. All right, so if you are thinking about doing a meat product, here's what you need to know. Food falls under 2 categories per the FDA and per most states, or all states that I know of. And that's ready-to-eat foods. So think of foods from a restaurant, from that you eat at a party. Remember when we did parties? That you get at a food truck. So it's sort of hot and ready, even if it's not meant to be hot, like a sandwich or something, right? It's ready to be eaten. And then you have all the pre-packaged food for home consumption. And often there's a little bit of a gray area there, right? But if you think about it, maybe here's a way to describe it, is that let's take a bakery, for instance. So you go to a farmer's market. If they have an open table with all of their baked goods out that you can point to and have them package up individually into one bag for you, that is a ready-to-eat food. Versus somebody who has their bread already in a container, in a bag, in some kind of a package with a label on it, that is a pre-packaged food. So those are 2 different categories per the FDA, per states, and 2 different categories when it comes to licensing and what you need to do. So and I'll just be honest that if you're going to stay local and you do want to do meat, it's easier to kind of go the ready-to-eat route. Otherwise, if you're going pre-packaged, your product, if it has any meat, and I'm not talking about like beef stock or something, but actual meat, that it needs to it is also licensed and regulated through the USDA. So you're going to have FDA regulations and USDA. And USDA is a little bit more, It's a little bit more cumbersome, and there are actual approvals that you need. Like with the FDA, you're not actually submitting a label for approval, versus the USDA, you do need to submit a label. So here's kind of how it works. Let me just explain sort of ready to eat and the different license. So essentially what you would probably have is, it could be called a little different things in different states, but essentially look for something like a retail food establishment license. And this is going to not typically be with your state. It's going to probably be with your county or city through the health department. This would fall under, be similar to a food truck license, like a mobile unit, or a catering license. So this is that type of license. This license offers you a lot of flexibility. If you think about a caterer, they're not having to run their menu by the FDA or the USDA or a personal chef or something like that, right? Or a restaurant. They're just making whatever they feel like and putting it out there within certain parameters, and you get to buy it, right? So there's not the same amount of oversight. One of the key pieces there is that it has to stay within state lines. And so I'm seeing a lot of restaurants, understandably, trying to pivot with COVID, and now they're selling their lasagnas or their hand pies or things like that. They're putting them up on for sale online and shipping them over state lines. So once we ship over state lines, now we're in FDA territory. So my recommendation is, if you want to stay local and do farmers markets, do direct to consumer, so you can't do wholesale under these conditions. But if you're doing direct to consumer, delivery, pickup, you're going to somebody's home, you're doing a party, your farmers markets, like I said, or they're coming to pick up, then you can do this kind of more flexible license with meat. The second it goes over state lines, or you want to do wholesale, you are now in prepackaged for home consumption territory, which means that your product needs to be made in a commercial kitchen under USDA supervision. So you literally need to have a USDA inspector on site watching you package that meat product. And then you have to have this USDA bug or symbol that goes onto your package. So it looks, it's very small on this package, but you can see that's the USDA little bug. So you get a number from the USDA, and you have to put that on your package that it was made under inspection. Now, the tricky part is, so technically the USDA will provide an inspector. However, they have a long list of requirements. So it's like free to have an inspector there, as long as it's within like certain workday hours. Like if you wanted an inspector overnight or on a weekend, then you do have to pay. But the USDA will provide an inspector for you, but you have to meet these regulations. You need to have, I believe that you have to have a private bathroom. There's a private office. So there's some specific things that most places don't have available. So you would want to search for a kitchen that has a USDA inspector. We're fortunate where I live in Colorado that we do have a kitchen that does have USDA inspection. And I always just recommend to people, like, if you're making vegetable tamales and meat tamales, like just schedule the inspector for that batch day where you're going to make the meat products only. They don't need to be there for the other products, right? So the other thing you have to do is get your label approved by the USDA. Labels are much more highly regulated. It's always interesting. These are those little tidbits that you learn with me, right? When you look on a package for meat going forward, and you'll notice, let's see, this way. Can you see the little tiny little crosses and asterisks? You're going to see these on meat packages because claims are highly regulated, and they actually kind of mean something more than, so for instance, natural. I was just having this conversation with a client about whether they could put natural, all natural on their product. And if it's not a meat product, you can, it means nothing. Like the FDA sees that as like, it has zero meaning. Like you can put natural on there all day. But under USDA, you cannot say all natural unless you prove it with documentation that the cattle or the pigs or whatever was raised under certain conditions. So you'll see these asterisks. So I know on these guys it says no nitrites added, no MSG added. And then like if you see all natural or pasture raised or something like that, then all of those need those little disclaimers. All natural is definitely one that you have to have a disclaimer on. So you just have a lot more loophole or not loopholes, but a lot more hoops to jump through when it comes to having a meat product. I help people kind of prepare their USDA labels, but I work with someone who specializes in that to do the final submittal and checks. If you thought FDA labels were nitpicky, get ready for the USDA if you have a meat product. So that's really what's going to trigger if it's a prepackaged for home consumption, if it goes over state lines, if it's got meat in it, you got to have this other layer of USDA. And so that is why I typically don't recommend that you start with a meat product like a meat-based sauce or a baked good or anything like that, unless you are under that other license where you're just doing direct-to-consumer inside of your state. All right, if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to throw those in the chat. Otherwise, I'm keeping it short and sweet, bite-sized answers here on Unwrapped, all about what to do if you have a meat product or you want to make a product with meat in it. All right, you guys have a fantastic day. Go eat some jerky.